So now that I've got the ink all mixed up, I'm going to lay it out and charge a brayer with the ink. And that's how we apply ink to Intaglio Editions plates. You may have learned in some classes you can use a piece of matte card and scrape on the ink, and that can be effective, but you need to remember these plates are very fragile, more so than other types of polymer plates, and we found that scraping of the card can cause scratches. So we recommend this brayering technique instead, and it's much more gentler on the plates. So we have here a nice brayer, and we're going to load the ink onto it nice and evenly. So now that it's charged, we're going to apply the ink to the plate. Just roll it on nice and smooth. The objective is to cover the entire plate with the ink so you know it's completely covered before wiping it with the tarlatan. You may have to charge the roller a few times depending on the size of your plate. So then what we like to do is we take tarlatan, which is essentially cheesecloth with some starch applied to it, and we will wipe the plate with this. I prepare the tarlatan ahead of time by soaking it in water for about 20 minutes and agitating it, wring it out, let it dry first. That removes some of the starch that could potentially scratch the plate and just makes it generally nicer to use. So after it's dried, I pull apart the tarlatan because the starch will cause it to stick together a little bit. And ideally, you start wiping with the dirtiest tarlatan you have. And I don't have any dirty tarlatan yet, so we're just going to start with this one. But the idea is you start with the dirtiest and work cleaner and cleaner as you wipe and reveal more and more of the image. And so what I like to do is apply the ink to the plate with this twisting motion. So I'm kind of pushing down with a little bit of force and pushing the ink into the microscopic pits that allow the plate to hold ink. I'll twist it in one direction while I'm wiping, and then once I'm at the end, I might change the direction too to get the ink in different angles into the plate. And that just makes for a richer looking image. So this circular motion, I just do it first to kind of soften up the ink and to get it malleable and doing what I want. And so then as I continue to wipe the plate, I'll do it less aggressively. It'll get softer. The wiping will become easier. So now's a good time to actually wipe the edges. I like to get the plate really, roughly clean, and then do a preliminary wipe of the edges. Sign of a good print is you don't see a lot of residual ink along the edge, and so that's why wiping the edge is very important, and we'll do it a couple of different times. Just right now, I'll get the majority of the ink off the edge. I kind of approach it on an angle to the edge of the plate too, and kind of push the ink onto the back area. So when you wipe, you can see how much ink is coming off the edge, and you want to just keep wiping until there's no more ink left on the edge. Now that we've completed the preliminary edge wipe, we're going to finish wiping the surface of the plate. The tarlatan should be kind of a flat pad, kind of like this. You don't want it to be too much of a sphere or folded over. You want it to be a nice flat surface to smear the ink in a natural way. So now you'll notice I've changed the technique from the grind that I was doing before to this kind of light buffing sort of motion. So you can see there's inks starting to break up and be removed, but there's still clumps of it, which we need to get rid of. And so we do that by gently continuing to apply wiping techniques to the plate until all the ink comes up in the highlight areas and move it into the shadow areas where we need the ink. And so I'm putting very little pressure on the tarlatan at this point, just kind of buffing out the clumps of ink and moving them into the darker regions of the print. And the thing I like to do to evaluate how well a plate has been wiped is to just look at it on certain angles. You can see whether or not there's ink in areas where it's not supposed to be, and you just clean it out. It's important not to overwipe the plate too, which will cause your highlights to blow out and you'll lose detail. So you want to have just the right amount of pressure. Now we're relatively clean on the plate. I'm going to do a final wipe of the edges.